I just want people to look at these faces because they're things that I pick up, but some of you would look at him and go, "Oh God, he's so hot. He looks like a manly man." I was like, he looks like somebody that probably abuses his wife." Okay, so he says, "An idiot but not a sexual predator. The woman gave man accused of sexually assaulting daughter the benefit of the doubt." Yes, let's take the benefit of the doubt and put our kids as pawns so some guy can go molest them. That's awesome. This case pisses me off. Like, I just really skimmed through it. I was looking at all the top things today, and I was like, I don't want to even talk about the other people anymore because I went on a whole thing. And then while I was talking about that, I go and find out that New York Post like changed their system with that AI bullshit or whatever now, which their site has continually allowed some really atrocious comments. So I like to go in there sometimes and correct them. And so one of the things was on the other case, dealing with the missing woman who is probably dead. They wanted to make some jokes and call her a man and then say, "Oh, he probably woke up and realized it was a dude." I was like, these people are socios, every single one of them that's posting that. And I put gross underneath one of them because another one I said, it's just an example of some like low IQ comment. And then they like censored it, which I've always posted that. No, and I'll say it even here. And then they're saying hate speech, right? So I was like, yeah, you're also condoning like harming transgenders, like, but they have nothing to do with the story. And even if they did, it's still, the story is serious about, femicide and stuff, that stuff, right? So I screenshotted this thing while I posted. I go, well, why, you need to fix your program because I'm not gonna run their stories anymore. No, they're gonna be off my channel. That's it. Because the word gross, that's all I said. Because they brought up the transgender thing, I said gross, and then they just completely muted that, banned it. Like I can't even post anything now. I was like, I didn't say anything that's against any rules, and it's American English. And yes, if you're gonna post something like that, I'm gonna post something back. And it wasn't inappropriate, like the way that I was talking. I wasn't telling them off or anything like that. So, because I want my post to go through and I know they've been doing this garbage for a while. So yes, it's a danger. That program, that thing right there is a danger. It's just men using it to abuse us again and be vindictive by allowing hate speech on the same groups of people that they always have been and not allow you to respond back and just allow it. Yeah, that's abuse. That is absolute abuse. So, New York Post, here's my middle finger. Anyway, this story is on KWTX. Yeah, this is pretty bad too. So, I just want to talk about these evil, vile women, okay? Because, uh, who, it's like the lady, I was watching this thing, this lady she knew that the guy was a suspect in a murder of his ex-girl, whatever he had a thing with in the past. So they were eyeing him, and I guess now then his pal, right? And this girl's like, I heard about it, but then like I told him to go away. But then like I rethought about it, and then I decided to be with him and have some kids with him while he's still a suspect. And it turned around being him and his friend who were hanging out at her house, and at no time she didn't catch any of this. Okay, I'm like, this is the bullshit. It isn't that they're different people in front of them, it's that they're that person and she's fine with that sociopath dude. Okay, and two of them, and she's like, oh, I had no idea. I was like, no, because that one's not a thing where you didn't know his history or didn't know he was under suspicion, didn't know any of that. And like I said, like I wouldn't even get with the guy at that point, but if I did, let's say I did, and I think like he's being wrongfully, this wouldn't even happen. But if I did, I would be highly suspicious of his activities because why the hell would I want to be with somebody that killed his girlfriend? There's something wrong with these women, like seriously in the head. So this is one of those where they're like, you know what? I'm going to show you that I don't believe it, and I'm going to go use my kid and go give my kid to the perpetrator. There's been so many stories like this. It's disgusting. My mom was one of those too, where she's just like, I know the guy's abusive, and I'm going to leave you alone with him. and do this crap. And the guy is more on the lines of being a murderer than a sexual predator, but he probably would have been that too if he had a chance. But he was more on the lines of, I'm going to murder you at some point, like that type of perpetrator. And there's a lot of them, mostly step parents and things like that. So this is what this mom did. I know the mom should be thrown in jail too. So they go, Andrew Richard, 37, is charged with continual sexual abuse of a child after an 11-year-old girl told a school counselor. Bravo to these kids, man. Oh my God. Like every time I read these stories where the kids told somebody, we didn't even have that option growing up. This was just not really a thought. And even if you did, they wouldn't have done anything. Like, I kept thinking, I go, it's so weird that my parents didn't tell me to call 911 ever for anything. It was weird. I was like, it was not even a thought. It was like not even a thought. It's just, here's a phone. You need to tell us when something happens. And then it's like, oh, but don't say that somebody did something to me and I should call 911. What if there's a fire? Like, you guys left me alone like a lot too. My mom later. And, then, yeah, so like when they locked us in the house, like there's a phone there, but at no point was it even a thought like call 911 because I didn't even know. Even in 7th grade, you guys, it's crazy. Like when I was looking back at this, I go, oh my God, they purposely did that so I wouldn't get anybody busted. How? So it's just like the general population was going on like this. So any 11-year-old running off and telling somebody is just like, wow, bravo. At least there is a change in conversation where the kids now are, they know I should tell somebody about something here. But and somebody might actually do something today versus back then. Because even if I did, they probably would have just said, oh, she's a bad kid. She's just trying to do this crap. So anyway, it says Aubrey sexually assaulted her multiple times over a period of 6 years. 6 years, dude. And a criminal complaint affidavit states. So the victim reported the alleged sexual assaults on November 17, 2023 to a counselor at River Valley Elementary, and the school alerted CPS. Okay, so the child states the victim lived with her mother and 2 siblings at a home, on the street. So CPS reportedly removed the 2, and then it goes like this. So then it says, during an interview at the Child Advocacy Center, the child told investigators Aubrey first sexually assaulted her when they were 5 years old. And they're even aware what this is. There was a purposeful act on children during the Gen X period where they didn't even talk about rape. They didn't talk about any of this stuff, mostly inside the family unit, right? It was always like, oh, you could be walking down a street and some stranger grabs you and then they go and rape you. And that totally happens a lot too, okay? But they didn't talk about parents, things like that going on, siblings, none of that. They were okaying siblings, touching siblings. That was crazy. A whole lot of things. So, and then it goes, these sexual assaults continued over the next years when the child's mother was at work or away from home. And also keep in mind, there's adults right now that are sitting there. They were totally sexually abused and they're like 50 now. And they're just like, what? Everything was normal. Like they didn't even go and tell anybody. They're still not saying anything. But this kid did. So you see a little difference in some things that have been going on. I don't know how often this is, but I keep reading stories now where the kid's like, man, I escaped the house and told somebody, like this other thing. The victim, and back then they were like, they're just bad kids running away and they don't want to mind their parents. That's how they were going on. So then they go, the victim and the investigator claimed that Aubrey would sometimes enter the home stumbling when he had been drinking too much and sexually assaulted her. Do not blame your drinking on being a pedophile monster. There's a lot of these men out here doing that, and you do not allow it. Drinking does not turn people into pedophile monsters. You're a pedophile monster who's a drunk. That's a thing. You do not blame your addiction on your sociopath actions here, right? And we're not going into this because they're trying to do that right now. And I go, there's a lot of people with addiction problems. My God. But did you hear about them raping a bunch of people like while they're on it? If anything, you do hear stories about them getting raped by other people because they're under the influence, right? They don't turn into raping children and anybody else, right? Yeah, don't use it as an excuse. Kevin Spacey is one. Okay, according to investigators, the victim said she felt unsafe at the home and would stay in her home most of the time to avoid Aubrey inside the home. When investigators spoke with the victim's mother, the woman claimed the girl was lying in order to get out of the home and be able to live with grandparents. First off, this pissed me off. I was like, so this mom is gaslighting the daughter and just saying, I'm not listening to you being sexually assaulted by my man. And it also could be that she knew about it and she just hates the daughter and blames her. There could be a whole other thing here. But then, why would your daughter want to go stay with grandparents and not you? Like, there's a thing to that because when you have some cool parents, like, why would you want to leave the house? Why would you want to leave the house? That's strange. Kids would rather, and when your parents are good, would rather stay with their parents. So she's wanting to escape you guys for a reason. Because she's abusive. You see that? She's abusive to the daughter herself. This woman right here. She should get busted. She absolutely should be. So then it says the woman investigators wrote in the affidavit claimed Aubrey had not had a job in 5 years and would stay home to care for her children. What crap is this? I would not be with a guy like this because I'm always the one that has to work anyway. And I would not trust some guy to watch my children that is not their father. Well, there's a lot to this. Like there's a whole thing because she's ignoring that the kid doesn't want to be there, doesn't like the guy, gaslighting the kid, saying it never happened. And so she's being abusive to the daughter, and then the daughter wants to leave, and then she basically allowed a perpetrator to harm her the entire time. So, no, she's guilty of that. And it was her choice to leave her with that perpetrator the entire time. Yeah, you should be accountable too. So the women describe Aubrey to investigators as this is ridiculous. As an idiot, immature, and inappropriate, not a sexual predator. What does that say about this mother, right? Like, I'm dating an idiot that's immature and he's inappropriate. What's inappropriate? Inappropriate conduct with children. So you put somebody that's an idiot, immature, and inappropriate with your kids. And she loves them. This is the thing that's so crazy about it. It isn't, he's a smart, great, sweet guy that, this. No, she's like, my man is an idiot. He's immature and inappropriate. Your bar is high, Aubrey. Okay, yeah. Not Aubrey. The mom's name. What's the mom's name? I don't know. The mom. Anyway, investigators reportedly call Aubrey multiple times to get his side of the story. Oh, yes, he's going to tell you the truth. But failed to get a hold of him. And Aubrey, the affidavit states, later called investigators and told them that he was declining the interview on the advice of his attorney. County records indicate Aubrey works for UPS. And he's being held on a $75K bond per online jail records. Do you think that's enough? Dude, he raped a kid for 5 years? And a really young kid. You're talking about, she reported it at 11. So he was doing that to her at 6 or something? Oh, over 6 years. Yeah, since she was about 5. This is how you get a sociopath, though. This little incident here. So let's just say this kid has problems, right? On top of it, it would totally come together as to why that kid is like that. I just want to put it out there so people get more education on this, because just because someone's a victim doesn't mean they come out okay. I mean, like a normal human being. Sometimes, and mostly when you're talking about this younger year period, because this is what we're looking at, is that period right there where it's like a no going back zone. That if this is happening in the house and then the mom is doing this crap, and then they might start acting out in behaviors, and then they might start pathologically lying. It turns into that thing. I'm not saying that here, but I'm saying that that's something that can come out of it. And so there is something that had happened in order for that to happen. That's what I'm saying. And so when you're seeing it, it's not like a thing like it wasn't created from some situation where they were initially a victim, more or less. But it's not a thing later to be like, oh, we should cuddle them because they're out raping and serial killing everybody now. You know, that thing. So I'm saying that this is where that area needs to be tackled, because what if, okay, let's say hypothetical here. What if that kid didn't even go tell anybody because they didn't know to do it like we did when we grew up, right? Because there was no conversation. This is so horrible. Every time I think about it, it irks me to death, because I was like, I would have called the cops on my parents like a million times had I even knew that was a possibility that you could even do. And one of the things was when they took me into the hospital, they asked me like what happened. And I told them, and the hospital's supposed to be a mandatory reporter. So regardless if the parent says, oh, it was a mistake, it was an accident, because that's the running story that was going on this one thing. Even still, it's still abuse. They're supposed to report that to CPS and have them investigated. Now, I never seen CPS at the house. Now, if they came, I have no knowledge of it, but even still, the running story, and they were open about it, was I got mad and it was an accident and I did this. So it doesn't matter if it's, what the case may be, then they should have gotten in trouble for the conduct that they did there, right? Because then I ended up getting an injury and I had to go to the ER. And so then later they didn't care about the custody thing. And then we ended up here, right? In a really bad situation. I go, there's a reason why a lot of men do not have custody of their kids. But you'll see the opposite happen too, because there's some really bad mom. Like this mom right here shouldn't have kids. No, hell no. I'm just going to let this guy who I think is an immature idiot and inappropriate be with my kids. The word inappropriate. I'm going to let this inappropriate guy be with my 5-year-old. This is insane. But they keep doing this. They keep doing this. Why wouldn't he be a sexual predator then? You said he's an idiot. He's dumb. Aren't they all? I was like, aren't they all? The thing should really be, you're dumb, you're an idiot, you're immature, you're inappropriate, and you just hand your kids off to anybody. I can't. These people need to go in jail too with the perpetrators. What is the excuse why they do not? Because I don't think I don't think it's a valid excuse to try to get out of not being a part of also harming your own kids. Because she's the breadwinner. This isn't a thing where it's like she's in the situation where the guy is an abuser. He is the breadwinner, right? And she can't leave the situation. This is like my mom's situation, okay? My mom was the breadwinner. She had the power in the situation. Then the guy decides, he doesn't want to work at Lockheed anymore, right? And then she ends up taking care of him. And the guy is abusing us both. But for her, it's a choice because she has the money to leave. She has the power to leave. And then lets him abuse her kid. And then later, as we're talking as adults now, she's like, I hope you get over that, thing. It's like, excuse me? You should have, number one, you should have been arrested and he should have been arrested. So there isn't that. And the courts should have known that I was sent off with you. And why do the courts not have any information on who had custody of me? Because that's what they're saying. And so a major crime happened here and you both were involved in it. So, it turned into this thing. So as I went down the rabbit hole, the courts didn't have that information. I don't know. That's what they're saying. And they're trying to claim something like maybe they never divorced. And that's not true either. So, yeah, they tried to spin a thing on me going, oh, yeah, some people don't divorce and they remarry and they just leave it like that. You should, it's not anything uncommon. Like the courthouse said that to me. I was like, no way. They went through this massive divorce and they split and they got these house things and they both remarried. I was like, so where is it? Yeah, you guys don't even know how messed up this system is. And so I'm missing, right? Because there's no court thing where I went in for a court to legally put me here with pedophiles, okay? It just would never happen. And then they allowed this conduct, and then LAPD was involved, and they were well aware of it. And then so LAPD decided they want to abuse me on top of it and didn't report me to CPS or anything that my parents dumped me here. None of that, right? So why? That's the thing. I wouldn't even known to call 911 even then, as I'm off on my own here. That's how ridiculous it was. In what was that? And you're talking about the early 90s, and when you go into the 80s when the kids were, really little there. That's why all these people are getting busted today. They should have been busted then. It's not a thing. It's like, oh, it was so long ago we were rapists. No, it was illegal then, and it was illegal to cover up then, and it's illegal to run a human trafficking ring then, and it's illegal to human traffic children out then, and it's illegal to rape them. So those laws were in place. Those laws were in place as far as the raping children portion goes. They just did not use the human trafficking terms then. Um, so they just called them like prostitute. They used the derogatory term. So this kid, I'm just saying, it's so good that this kid said something. So what do you do if the kid doesn't say anything and you guys didn't catch this? I suppose the girl could have told the grandparents. But I don't know if these grandparents are good. I don't know what the reason is why they didn't tell the grandparents, but maybe because they weren't able to get a hold of them. I know when I was really young, like I had, I believe they had like the phone numbers like on the side of the phone, but I don't think I would have known it. I don't know. You talk about sixth and seventh grade, right? Sixth, maybe this kid's in sixth grade. 11? Yeah, like something like that, right? And, no, like most of the stuff was like my parents had the phone numbers, and then I barely just started understanding how to use the phone probably around that age right there. And I just started calling numbers. Once I found it out, I was like, oh, what's this gadget? No, they did not teach us to call. One time I did call, I think I called the operator. I don't think I called 911, but I called somebody and they were like, do you know where you called? I was like, no, I thought you had to just put the number, like when it said like six or something, I thought you just take the number and go six times or something. I don't know. I didn't even understand it. And then I called somebody and they were lecturing me. They weren't being mean. They were just like lecturing me, going, okay, this, I don't know. So I couldn't even call 911. I didn't know how. Yeah, that's your law enforcement parents there. Don't you think that's strange, right? Don't you think that a law enforcement father and mother would teach their kid to call 911 in an emergency? No. They did the quite opposite thing to let us not know how to use the phone. They let us know how to answer it, but they didn't like me answering the phone all the time because we got those strange calls, right? With that guy going, yes, so and so telling your dad. And I called like he knew him. And then I got in trouble, like that thing. And we think it was probably the serial killer. Yeah, but they were gaslighting me there too. Like I said, they did the same thing there. I go, there was a guy in the house. And they're like, oh, you saw a ghost. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. And then so I had this whole thing for years. And then later those phone calls came in. It was like, yes, what was it, 6 years later? 6 years later, and then we got the calls again, and then that guy goes and kills somebody like around that period. Yeah. They ignored it completely. And then when I was telling homicide in the law enforcement, they, same thing, gaslighters. The government acts like this mother right here. Oh, it's just this thing. I was like, dude, who would make that up? There's no way. I didn't know anything about the serial killer. They didn't even know he was a killer. They knew he was a rapist. They also didn't put two and two together why somebody would come in the house and then go put on my dad's robe. I go, but I knew it wasn't my dad. I said it wasn't my dad. I go, it was weird. And then my mom's like, go tell your father what you saw. And I tell him, and they're laughing away. And my brother literally saw it with me because I go, you see it, right? Because I ran into his room and there was a person like at the doorway. And it's such a gaslight because they did that. And then it makes you question your reality. And then I was like, why in the hell would I see like somebody in my dad's robe? And it wasn't him because he's snoring in his bedroom. I can hear him. Like it didn't make any sense. It didn't at all. Like it seemed like I don't know. Like you're hallucinating. I've never hallucinated. I like the only time I could even remotely think something like that is I was dead tired and I'm falling asleep and you're halfway dreaming or something. But I wasn't asleep. I was wide awake because I heard something. And then somehow I ran from it from my bedroom into my brother's room. And then I ran into his bed, and his bed's like right at the door, too. And so I went on the other side of him. And then we look at the doorway, and there's a dude, like a figure. It was like in the dark, dude. And I was like, why? What? Do you see that? Like, it was so confusing. And then you see this like glowing light, which I thought cigarette, because my dad used to smoke, and it was like this little red dot of a light in their hand. So it just made, I was like, oh, dad in a robe, maybe he's sleepwalking. And then all of a sudden you hear all the way in his bedroom. And I was like, And then so he threw the covers over our head, and then somehow I fell asleep. I was so freaked out, I fell asleep. Yeah, and then they just started making fun of it. I was like, no, Yeah, so then later it just became a thing where they're calling and heavy breathing and going, we went into the house, into your mother's drawers. And I'm like, excuse me? And they think that that's not related. But then they laughed that off too, you guys. They let some serial killer guy call me and didn't report it. So their conduct the whole time was atrocious. Then they both should have been in jail. You cannot dump your kids off with pedophile adults. Like, what the heck? Nobody knew who they were. I'll be damned, there's so many adult parents like this, it's insane. But they're not getting in trouble, right? Because you read the story. What did they do to this mom? This mom should never have kids. No way. She can't make an educated thing for her kid, and it's just abuse. So it's just like, I'm ignoring you, and I'm going to let him keep touching you. And you're lying just to be with your grandparents. So, yeah, we're going to ignore, like, why the kid doesn't want to be there to begin with, right? We're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore that. I just can't get over the stupid woman. She wants, maybe, okay, like if you think of the mindset about this, why do men do it, right? For power and control, right? Where they don't have the partner work and shit. And she's probably feeling empowered by having this guy, like, at home, like her, like, child slave type of thing. Because, explain this. Why are you with the guy that's an idiot? You know what I mean? That's her words. Idiot, immature, and inappropriate. So that's the guy that you have at home that doesn't work, and you didn't kick him out or anything like that. Your kid hates him. She's claiming that she got sexually molested by him, which I believe it, because, I mean, what is this? I mean, for him, this is like party time. It's like, I found this dumb woman that's going to let me get access to her kid. She's going to pay for me to live with her the whole time, and she's gone, and we're just going to gaslight the hell out of her. And then she's just like, but not a sexual predator. I don't know how you put that after saying inappropriate. They're inappropriate, but yeah. Inappropriate how? What did he do that's inappropriate? And then probably say something like, well, he stripped down naked in front of my kids, but not a sexual predator. Like, I'm just trying to figure this out. All right, so we'll tail up on this story because I did bring it up, but this is the one that I said the guy looks like a felon. We have to give props to this mom because she listened to her daughter and didn't pull this like gaslighting garbage and say you're just making stuff up. Okay, so this California girl, 12, was raped for 5 hours by an intruder who sneaked into her bedroom through an unlocked door, the parents say. And the distraught mother said the rapist told the child a gunman had his sights set on her bedroom window and that she would be shot if she didn't stay quiet. And like I said, the guy looks like a straight up felon, dude. it's in an area that I used to work in, and the cops were hella corrupt over there. And actually, it ties into another case that was, how far was it? It was down the street about 7 miles. There was a photographer that lured a girl at the same time when I was working there, lured a girl and then killed her. And then the cops are a piece of crap in this whole thing too. And they go on TV and they fake present like, they're all against this, but they weren't, because they were also hanging out at my job. And then they did this like fake, they ambushed me outside my job when I was waiting for my boss to get there so I can get a check, and then claimed on scene that somebody called on me and said I had a warrant and that I was on meth. And I go, excuse me? And then they fled, right? They fled the scene, the cops did, because they stopped me before they ran my information and claimed that I was wanted. So how could they claim that if they didn't run my information, right? So then they demanded that I tell them, because it'll be better for me if I tell them right away. And I go, you go do that, jerk. You know what I mean? So then he took my ID, ran it, and he freaked the hell out, gave me my ID back, and then made up a story, right? And then he takes off. And so the area itself was not safe as far as like perpetrators go. So I don't know where the mom like thinks just because she's in Culver City that it's safe, like either from cops or the public, because the cops are really corrupt here for a long time. So they're part of our stuff, and they actually made excuses for it recently when I was investigating it. They said basically, they're like, what's your problem? Nothing happened to you. Mm-hmm. So, just to get the gist of this area. Okay, so authorities confirmed officers responded to the city's Blair Hills neighborhood early on the morning of December 2nd. So this neighborhood, I guess, is a little off to the side. It's kind of a little more affluent, this type of thing. And where they met with the young victim and her parents. Now, KTLA, who spoke to the victim's mother, identified only as Alexis, reports that the girl woke her parents after the assault, telling them to call the cops. The victim told police the male suspect entered her bedroom between 2 and 3 a.m. Investigators believe he gained access to the home through an unlocked balcony door. The distraught mother, she was sleeping downstairs at the time of the attack. Yeah, like, who would say, I mean, you're thinking about it is like, okay, I'm downstairs. Like, upstairs should be totally safe, right? Like, more safe than you would be being downstairs. So he told her that there was a shooter at her window, and the safe neighborhoods apparently aren't that safe either. No, they never were. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not blaming the mom for any of this, because it's like, what the hell? Like, the guy is just he's a socio, he's a perpetrator. He looks like a felon. So what I'm saying is like a guy that's going to go through a second story window or anything like that. He sounds like a career criminal, because it's not even like, I mean, it doesn't even seem like a I don't know, like, it seems like it was be somebody that was possibly stalking for a while. It could have been that. And then it's crimes that he's already done, and then he feels really confident and comfortable just going into somebody's house like that. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's not just like, I'm gonna bust in with my gun and do a house invasion, and then, because then they feel a little bit more powerful, right? Because they're like armed at the yin yang. The guy like literally has no fear, and he knows what to do. It's a strange thing. So to me, he seems like a felon, and I'm looking at his face. He looks like a felon. He looks like it's something that he has already been busted for. And I don't know what his past crimes are, but apparently he didn't pull out a gun here. So that also could be telling too, because maybe he is a registered offender or a perpetrator that cannot have them, and maybe that's part of the reason for that too. Or because he is a violent offender, so it's not like, he's totally against not doing that, but he used it as a fear tactic. So yeah, that's why I was like, dude. Okay, so the rapist said that she would be shot if she didn't stay quiet during the horrific hour-long sexual assault, which he may not even have had a gun. But after telling police what had happened, the officers canvassed the surrounding area for witnesses and additional evidence. Video footage was recovered showing the suspect leaving the home at around 7 a.m. He literally comfortably stayed inside this house for 5 hours while the mom was downstairs. The guy's older. Like, you see the photo of the guy. He looks like somebody that California had in their prison system and had just let out. That's my thinking about it, because I'm like, the brazen thing about it is not something where some guys, like, let's say he like molests kids, whoever he's around, but he randomly goes, you know what, I'm gonna pop up and crawl up into this window of this house and just kick back for like 5 hours and really put myself at risk of getting caught. It's, you don't know when the bomb's gonna come up, right? 7 a.m. And then he just strolls on out. I'm sitting here going, To me, it looks like another one of those cases where California let him out, didn't give a crap. The guy probably is on probation. He's probably on something where he doesn't have weapons. Like, they get weapons anyway, but he might not have weapons. Like, it could be a thing like that. I was thinking about it just because of the nature of it. And he may have, I hope the kid didn't have any conversations with some weird guy who was trying to pretend he's a young guy and, a young boy or something. And then, that could be involved too, which is still scary. But or it could be a thing where she was at school, he was praying around, or he was just wandering, he's praying and he's seen them and scoped it out. Because how would you know, like, it's he had to have focused in on the kid, because how would you know a kid was in the house to begin with? And then watching when people go to bed and locations of people, it's really strange, right? So yeah, there's something to that. That's scary. This was a really scary case. And the mom's like, what did you say? And then the girl knew to call the police. I don't even know if I would have known to say call the police that's what I'm saying. At that age, for some reason, they had us kids like, tell your parents. Like, it would have been like telling them, and then my parents not calling the police. It would have been like that. But yeah, the police. Okay, so they utilize the all that stuff, and then Culver City is about 10 miles west of downtown, and the male suspect is described as either Caucasian or Hispanic with an average height build, and he was last seen wearing dark colored clothes, a dark beanie, and white shoes. And he looks about 50 to 60. I'm like, Alex said her daughter is coping following her ordeal. She's being strong, I think, for us, but she's doing pretty good. She's gonna not be okay. I mean, that's so scary, because when I was little, when I was like, how old was she? She was 12. Yeah, she was 12. So that's the average age that these men typically like to go at. And as I said, you can refer back to the age of consent thing and refer back to religions, how they like to rape 12-year-olds. Okay, so there is a thing with that. But when I was 12, yeah, so I was about 12, we moved to this new house, and I would sometimes have my window unlocked. I mean, for the most part, I lock stuff, but sometimes, like, friends would want me to go outside at night, and we would open the window and go out and, like, meet up with people just at the house or around the corner. There was a park right there. And not that any of this is good. It was actually really dangerous. Luckily, nothing happened during any of that. But there could have been a situation there with somebody going through the house. But it didn't happen. But like I said, that opportunity could be there. And then the front door, my dad had a security screen thing, so for his work stuff, right? But nothing on our windows, which is interesting. Um, but yeah, that could that he usually locked all the windows and the doors at night, and it was me, like, with my friends and stuff, and we're like, let's just go kick it outside, I'm just gonna go kick it outside. Not even thinking of this type of thing, not at all. Would have been my younger years when we were at the other house, because at the other house I made sure, like, I was like, I don't want anybody near my window, and they kept why they put our bedrooms, like, I guess we had no choice because all the bedrooms were facing the street side. So there was none that were facing the inside property. It was all facing outside the property. My brother's room, my room, and the parents' room. So it was like in the thing. And then there was a middle bedroom that, yeah, if I had that bedroom, then there was no windows outside. It was just doorways to either side of the house from the inside. And then there was in a encased with a front room, a living room, and a long hall. So that bedroom is like right in the center of it. Yeah. I don't know how that guy got in. Like, I was thinking about it. I go, well, the back door, they had a back door which was located in the kitchen, and that door was known for us to go in and out of in the daytime, and that had a big possibility to accidentally be unlocked. Um, that was one possibility because I was like, yeah, and you wouldn't even have heard it. Like, I heard noises, but it was really hard to hear way in the back of the house because the kitchen was built like a bedroom where it was enclosed, and then it had a doorway, and you would go into the kitchen, and then on the side there was a back door that went to the side gate and into the backyard. And in the daytime, me and my brother, we would go in and out of it sometimes and mess around, through the backyard or whatever. But at times that may have been left unlocked accidentally. And because the side door is where my dad would fall asleep in this living room area, and he would always lock that. And then, but that is also another accidental possibility too, is that, so that door right there and that other side door in the back. But the front door, no way. At nighttime they always check the front door, and then it would be a rare time that anybody's window was open. We didn't really do any of that. So no, the windows were locked. And yeah, that was the only thing I could think of. And that thing was that front door, that back door and the side door to the kitchen, because initially they were asking me, do you know who stole the meat out of the house? And I was like, no. They're like, well, we're just going to assume the babysitter did it. And I go, that's bizarre, because when I was waking up, I said I heard things in the house, and you ignored that. And then, and then it came together later where there was these calls, and I go, you had a serial killer running around, and you were targeted. Your department was targeted by the serial killer. So, like, what? And I said there was a weird thing that happened because I was picking up the dolls to make sure they don't fall, because there was a thing where I said if they fall, they will die. And I go, I don't know where that came from, because when the initial case was going on, we lived in Davis, and I go, well, there's always a possibility that they broke into the Davis home. And I was so little that I have no recollection of the conduct there, other than I remember being in a crib. But I think that was actually at the secondary house when we moved to the other city, which was in the portion where he was trailing some people. And if it occurred, it's weird that I like I was saying it. I didn't know about this case at the time, so there's no way I could make up a story to go along with a story I never even heard of. So I was saying that the whole time there was a thing where I had to make sure that the dolls were on the bed, because if they fell, they're gonna die. And one of the things that the serial killer did was put plates and things on people, and if they fell over, then they were gonna get killed, right? So I go, that's fucking weird. And I had some strange behavior in this portion here, and I have been trying to analyze it for a long time, and it's disturbing. Like, to me, it's disturbing because it's kind of like, okay, there's an explanation to it from a perpetrator, more than likely, and because they ignored it, like, it was all confusing to me. I don't believe that came out of nowhere. Like, where in the hell is a kid gonna come up with that, you guys? I don't know. Like, there was no thing for it to come up. I was really little here. Like, you're talking 5, 6, somewhere 5, 6, like really little. I was like, where did that come from? We know that this person was doing stuff because we know that we got calls. I know that for sure. So that's a factual thing. So I was like, well, and then we also know that they were targeting their department. Then we also found out that they were targeting kids of law enforcement. And so there was a case with the girl in the case. And so I was like, yeah, because I was so little, I wouldn't even trust like I wouldn't trust like what's it called if they did like hypnosis to pull that out of me because I would think that it would be more of a thing where I have a flash about it because I remember that portion. It's just some earlier portions that I'm like I cannot answer for because my memory was developing then, so it comes and goes, right? Like you remember some things, like I remember a mobile with music and things like that, but the major portions of that, no. Like if some guy came in and did that to me, like hey kid, like uh but I remember doing it and then feeling that they were in the room. And then I was so freaked out that I put the covers over me and I felt something. And then the next thing I fell asleep. Like, I don't know if I just was like in shock, scared, and I fell asleep. And then it was like the next day. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell. And so, like, my bed was like piled high with all these dolls. And they couldn't fall because something bad was going to happen. And I go, that's really strange. It's really strange, but I had to do that all the time. And another thing I made sure is I looked in my closet and I looked under my bed because I was trying to make sure that that guy was like not there. And I never found them. You know what I mean? I didn't find any, think I saw, the guy or something. But I constantly just make sure. And then, there was some incidents. Like I said, that just that one night thing. And there was a weird time where I thought like maybe like on the rocking chair. I had this white rocking chair, which was like diagonally from my bed, and it had dolls on it sometimes, but I don't know. I think like one night, like it seemed like they were sitting there, and but again, I was so little, like I can't really say much about it. And then my parents were making the situation worse by pretending that they were monsters in the house and chasing us around and turned off all the lights. And so it made that situation more like, is that my dad? Like it was like that because that's why I thought that automatically on the first thing because I wasn't even like really scared of that. So I wasn't like the kid that was like totally terrified by like horror movies or anything like that. I love them. So it was kind of like yeah, it was a gaslight because they were doing that crap. And so then it confused it where I was like, is that dad like doing this bullshit? It was that. And then I go, oh my God, it's not. So I knew enough right there to know. Wanted to play, my dad wanted to play the stocking head thing. Okay, so he wanted to put a stocking over his head and chase us in the middle of the night and turn off all the lights and chase us around and thought it was funny. And so because of things like that, it didn't cause like a typical alarm like another kid would have. Was seeing some bullshit like that. And somebody had a mask. I said they had a netted mask and they're claiming they don't have any recollection of this. I go, no, there was a black mask. I remember touching the mask and it had like red on the outside of its netting. And why do I recall this? But I don't know how I had it. And then I said the objects that they're talking about in the case my dad has. My dad had that. And I was thinking maybe it came from our aunt, but I don't know why I'm thinking that. But then the stick thing is a cop thing, And they're sitting there off like thinking it's somebody else. I go, but that's a cop item. So you're either going on that it's a cop or it's a child of a cop doing those things. But why is my dad running around with a stocking on his head? You know what I mean? Like this thing. And yeah, there was a lot of questions to that. That was crazy. Did your parents do that? I was like, my parents are psychotic, dude. And then they locked me out in the backyard, knowing that situation happened in the middle of the night, thinking it's hilarious. And I was like, anybody could be in our yard, dude. I was like, what are you doing? And so it freaked me the hell out. So then I busted through the window. I was like, what do you, they think it's funny. I was like, it's not funny. It's like literally pitch black and there's no like lighting thing. And it was pretty big. We had like this weird brush yard that was like, I don't know, dude. That was not, and anybody could just walk in through the backyard. Like they didn't even have it locked. They had a gate, but they didn't have a lock thing. What else do they do? Oh yeah, Jaws. Okay, so yeah, the swimming pool thing. Yeah, Jaws. They know Jaws like freaks me the hell. I don't like things with sharp teeth. So we're not into alligators or Jaws, okay? Sharks. And yeah, and they used to sit there and try to pull me under the water. Like we'd be swimming because I was always swimming and stuff. And so he would pretend that he was Jaws, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, he would just dunk us under the water. Like I was like, yeah, I could drown, thank you. Yeah, I mean, they used to do that. I was thinking about that with that other case with that girl saying in the swimming pool. I was like, no, my dad was like literally trying to murder us in the swimming pool. No, I mean, nothing bad happened, but they were doing things like that. No, I freaked them out swimming. I always did that. Oh my God. Like just the thought of it, like now, because something bad could have happened, but I was like, they're like, don't go out that far, get back here. I'm like, like way, way fucking far, dude. They're all freaking out. You see these like buoys, like where you're not supposed to swim past, and I'm like, I'm just gonna accidentally swim past them because I was like so confident in my skills, and then I knew it was freaking them out because they were like trying to I'm like, they were trying to treat me as a kid, and I was. But yeah, no, they would freak the hell out because I was a major avid swimmer, and like, yeah, I was just like, nothing's gonna happen to me. Like that thought, I was like, underneath the water could have been a damn alligator or something, and I'm not even thinking of that. And yeah, I don't think they had alligators over there, but I don't know. I didn't even give it a thought. And it wasn't in the ocean, but I do recall doing something weird in the ocean before, which I would never do today. Because you keep hearing about these like Jaws attacks. I'm like, no, I won't even do that now. It's like I'm lucky to go like into the tide just a little bit. Man, I could have died. I was like, I could have died. This is crazy. I keep having these like flashbacks to how I was like floating like really far away, like really far away, and then these like news stories. It's like all of a sudden, they started getting like attacked by a shark. I'm like, oh hell no. I was like, yeah, that's dumb, kids. Don't do that. Like they're just not like thinking, but I don't know. It just wasn't even a thought. I don't know. It was a thought when the movie came out, but then like I don't know. You just don't associate it with like that's really gonna happen to you, or it could happen to you. It was not good. But no, I would go diving 20 feet and I would stay down there as long as possible, and then they would freak out, and then I'd come back up and I don't know.